In the small fog-shrouded town of Ravenswood, nestled between dense pine forests and a misty lake, lived the Holloway family. Thomas Holloway, a widower, and his young daughter, Lily, were the last of the Holloway line. Thomas's wife, Margaret, had passed away 2 years prior after a long illness. Her death left a void in their lives, but Thomas did his best to raise Lily on his own. The townsfolk often remarked how much Lily resembled her mother. Same chestnut hair, same bright green eyes, and the same gentle smile. Margaret had been the heart of their home, and her absence was felt in every corner. Thomas kept her memory alive by telling Lily stories about her mother's kindness, her love for gardening, and the way she would hum lullabies while rocking Lily to sleep. But as time passed, Thomas noticed something strange. Lily began talking to someone in her room, someone only she could see. At first, Thomas dismissed it as an imaginary friend, a coping mechanism for a child who missed her mother. But then, things took a darker turn. One evening, Thomas was tucking Lily into bed when she looked up at him with a serious expression. "Daddy, Mommy says she misses you," Lily said softly. Thomas froze. He knelt beside her bed and asked, "What do you mean, sweetheart?" Lily smiled. "Mommy visits me at night. She sits right there." She pointed to the rocking chair in the corner. "And sings to me." Thomas felt a chill run down his spine. The rocking chair had been Margaret's favorite. He hadn't touched it since her death. He tried to rationalize it. Lily was grieving, and her mind was creating comforting fantasies. But deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The next morning, Thomas found Lily's bedroom window wide open, even though he was certain he had locked it the night before. The air in the room was icy, and the faint scent of roses, Margaret's favorite flower, lingered in the air. Thomas began to feel uneasy, but he pushed his fears aside. That is, until the night he saw her. It was past midnight when Thomas awoke to the sound of humming. The melody was faint but unmistakable. It was the lullaby Margaret used to sing to Lily. His heart pounded as he crept out of bed and followed the sound to Lily's room. The door was slightly ajar, and through the crack, he saw the rocking chair moving slowly back and forth. Sitting in it was a figure, a woman with long chestnut hair, wearing a white nightgown. She was humming softly, her back to the door. Thomas's breath caught in his throat. It was Margaret. But how? She was gone. He had buried her himself. He pushed the door open, his hands trembling. The figure stopped humming and turned to face him. It was Margaret, but her face was pale and gaunt, her eyes hollow and lifeless. She smiled, but it was a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Thomas," she said, her voice a whisper, "I've come back for Lily." Thomas stumbled backward, his mind racing. This couldn't be real. He must be dreaming. But the cold air, the scent of roses, and the look in Margaret's eyes told him otherwise. "You're not real," he stammered. "You're gone." Margaret's smile faded. "I'll always be with her," she said. "She's my daughter. You can't keep us apart." Before Thomas could respond, she vanished, and the rocking chair fell still. Over the next few weeks, Thomas became increasingly paranoid. He locked Lily's windows and doors every night, but no matter what he did, Margaret always found a way in. Lily seemed happy, even comforted by her mother's presence, but Thomas knew something was terribly wrong. He began to notice changes in Lily. Her once bright eyes grew dull, and she became withdrawn, spending hours alone in her room, talking to someone Thomas couldn't see. One night, Thomas decided to confront Margaret. He waited in Lily's room, clutching a Bible and a crucifix, determined to protect his daughter. As the clock struck midnight, the room grew cold, and the scent of roses filled the air. Margaret appeared, her form flickering like a candle in the wind. "Leave us alone," Thomas pleaded. "You're not her mother anymore. You're Something else. Margaret's face twisted in anger. I will never leave her, she hissed. She belongs with me. She reached out a hand, and Thomas felt an icy grip around his throat. He struggled to breathe, his vision blurring. Just as he thought he would lose consciousness, Lily's voice broke the silence. Mommy, stop! Lily cried. Don't hurt Daddy. Margaret released Thomas and turned to Lily, Margaret's face contorted with rage. You don't understand, she snarled. You're mine. She lunged toward Lily, but Thomas threw himself between them, clutching the crucifix. Margaret let out a piercing scream and vanished in a swirl of mist. Thomas and Lily moved out of the house the next day, leaving Ravenswood behind. They never spoke of what happened, but the experience left them both scarred. Years later, when Lily was grown, she returned to Ravenswood to visit her mother's grave. The townsfolk told her that the house had been abandoned ever since they left. No one would go near it, claiming it was haunted by the spirit of a woman who refused to let go. Lily stood at her mother's grave, placing a bouquet of roses on the headstone. I love you, Mommy, she whispered, but it's time to let go. As she turned to leave, she thought she heard a faint hum, the lullaby her mother used to sing. But when she looked back, the graveyard was silent, and the wind carried the scent of roses away.